Situated on the Fort Totten Indian Reservation, this North Dakota State Historic Site began in 1867 with soldiers erecting a log structure. Over time, it grew to encompass numerous buildings. Located on the southeastern shore of Devil's Lake, its primary aim was to safeguard the Totten Trail, a land route stretching across Dakota Territory from southern Minnesota to the gold fields of western Montana. Later, it served to oversee and safeguard the Totten Indian Reservation. Fort Totten was among several forts established to safeguard the overland route. Others included Forts Abercrombie, Ransom, Stevenson, and Buford, along with Fort Benton in Montana. In the early summer of 1867, General A. H. Terry led a sizable force into the Devil's Lake region to commence construction on the fort. It was named after Brevet Major General Joseph Gilbert Totten, who had served as the chief engineer of the United States Army. The subsequent year, the soldiers initiated the reconstruction and expansion of the fort. Initially, there were no Native Americans in the nearby area when the fort was established. However, during the ensuing winter, the fort extended an invitation to the Sioux for a visit. After the Indians ascertained that the invitation was sincere, many of them started to come to the fort gradually, with some opting to settle permanently. This was likely because of their dire circumstances, as the fort's commander had to distribute substantial quantities of rations to prevent these Indians from succumbing to hunger during the first winter. In 1870, J. W. Daniels, the Indian agent at the Sisseton Indian Agency, Dakota Territory, proposed the appointment of an Indian agent for the indigenous population residing near Fort Totten. The original log quarters were then designated for the use of the Indian Department, and the inaugural Indian agent arrived in May 1871. By September of the same year, the Native American population was estimated to have exceeded 700 individuals, sustaining themselves not only on government provisions but also by cultivating over 100 acres of crops including corn, potatoes, turnips, wheat, oats, and hay. Despite the provision of the Fort Totten Indian Reservation in a treaty from February 1867 and the allocation of 360 square miles by an executive order in January 1870, the reservation was not formally established until 1878. During the 1870s, the fort underwent significant expansion, adding facilities such as a sawmill, granary, officers' quarters, barracks, hospital, bakery, commissary, and school, with many of these structures constructed using brick. A Catholic school was planned to be set up at the Indian Agency, and by 1875, the agency had expanded to include 5 buildings. Eventually, in 1878, the nearby reservation was officially established for the Cuthead, Wahpeton, and Sisseton Sioux as per the terms of an 1867 treaty. While the fort still operated as a military installation, its main focus shifted towards Indian affairs during the following decade. In 1890, Fort Totten was officially shut down, and the following year, it was transferred to the ownership of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. For over the next 50 years, the structure served as an Indian boarding school, healthcare center, and a reservation school, functioning until 1959. In the following year, the Bureau of Indian Affairs handed over most of the fort grounds to the state of North Dakota for preservation. This area was transformed into the Fort Totten State Historic Park and was officially recognized on the National Register of Historic Places in 1971. Presently, Fort Totten stands as one of the most well-maintained military outposts from the frontier period, boasting 16 of its original structures, such as officers' quarters, barracks, family housing, the commissary, bakery, and more. The historic hospital building houses a museum situated in Benson County on the Fort Totten Indian Reservation. It lies just southwest of the town of Fort Totten, North Dakota.